Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart, Ralph O'Brien, and Dr. Kay Royal.
On 12 June, Vermont Governor Phil Scott signed Bill S-69 into law, the Vermont Age-Appropriate Design Code, also known as the Vermont Kids Code. Driving force out behind the bill, State Representative Monique Priestley, who we are happy to welcome back to the podcast. And I'm very curious to know, why is this bill so different than the version of the Kids Code implemented in the draft privacy bill that was vetoed by the same governor before? My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. So we're trying again to get back to taking pictures and posting them on LinkedIn because, we're not very visual pictures people, and typically it's because I'm not camera ready. Let's be honest, people. Paul doesn't want to record on camera, but I'm the one that's never camera ready. Welcome back, Monique. We're so glad to have you back with us and for a fantastic topic. Thank you. Let's get through the unexpected question, which is, what is the weirdest compliment you've ever received?
Oh, I just got, I'll just, like a recent one. Yesterday, somebody called me a Trojan horse at a privacy conference. So that's fascinating.
So you're slipping in past the defenses and hitting them from ends. Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, the Trojan horse of privacy. There's a hashtag. Oh, what did you?
I have no idea. I don't remember compliments, let alone awkward compliments. So absolutely no idea. Maybe just being accused of being part of a married couple.
I think the weirdest one I ever got, the one that sticks out in my head, is in law school when there was a weird echo in the room. So I could hear people talking, even though they were quite far away from me. And one of them said something about, well, that's like Kay going against the flow. And one of the ladies started laughing. She's like, oh, please, you think Kay even notices there's a flow?
Fair enough.
Kay just goes where Kay goes.
That's rough.
It's true.
I'll take that one. And the other one was an old high school buddy, and we've been out of high school a long time, that connected on Facebook. And he sent me a message when we connected. He said, you were always just the most resilient person I've ever met. And I'm like, was I like bullied in high school and I didn't know it? I don't know what resilient means. So there we go. I'm oblivious. Let's just be honest. I'm oblivious to those things. All righty. So let's talk a little bit. So tell us, the last time we met, you were working on the privacy bill. We were definitely supporting it, but you were also right before your election campaign, which you were expressing that this is you don't even know if you're going to be back in office because of how circumstances of how you got in office. But we were thrilled to see that you were reelected. So I know, very belated congratulations. But you haven't stopped moving. You have been moving and grooving right down the privacy lane like the yellow brick road to Oz. Tell us about it.
So I got reelected. So yay, thank you. It was close though. And so what ended up happening, kind of just politically, to give people some background, is our governor team more or less really spent some money to tell Vermonters to vote out incumbent Democratic legislators. So we lost, I think it was 25 between the House and the Senate. And actually, fascinatingly enough, most of those, if not all of them, were pretty moderate Dems in rural areas. So it was an interesting switch. And it really made the makeup of the legislature different as well, which is interesting. So when it comes into, luckily, privacy and AI and all of the kind of consumer tech policies are very bipartisan, but it did make for needing to spend a lot of time this session on education and like bringing new people up to speed, because we had a lot of new people.
Well, and that was one of the things we talked about federal. You spend 2 years educating someone, and then everybody gets replaced, and you have to spend another 2 years educating someone, and it's a constant round of education. And we talked about that's probably why we're never going to get a robust federal one, is because we're not going to have enough people in office voting for it that know what the heck it is. But
Right.
that's the challenge. So what all do you have going? What all are you working on? And we could talk about the age-appropriate design code since it passed, which we were very excited to see that. So you can start with whichever you want. Talk about the age-appropriate design code.
Yeah.
How Vermont is a mover and shaker in this. I mean, we expected it out of California. We got it. Challenged in court too. But and then tell us what you're working on. Let's go.
Yeah. So the age-appropriate design code, I mean, honestly, when I submitted that last session, initially I was not super pumped about it.
Okay.
It felt I was excited for the topic. When it came down to like what ended up coming out of the Senate initially, policy-wise, I was disappointed because it felt a little virtual signaling and not actually accomplishing
Doing
anything, because there was broken definitions. It literally didn't do anything. But I wasn't super pumped initially. And then when we needed politically to attach the initial age-appropriate design code to the comprehensive privacy bill last year, I had to spend 3 days with legislative counsel to basically recraft that entire thing so that both bills could be in harmony with each other and not conflict. And
when legislators ever worry about things in harmony?
But luckily, it came out much stronger.
Don't tell me you also tried to make it a readable bill.
Yeah, no, readable would be great. Enforceable, yeah. Implementable is great. So I was happier when it came out of that process for sure.
Good.
But I would say we still had like concerns that it wasn't quite where we wanted it to be. So it was kind of nice to be able to honestly revisit everything over last summer. And so I had revisited the comprehensive privacy bill and ran that separately. And so that started out as H208. The data broker bill, I broke that out separately. And so that became more of a delete act. And I think that was H211. And then, and I might have that wrong. I should look up these numbers. There's H's and Q's.
That's okay.
They're on my website. And then the age appropriate design code was also broken out separately. And so when I had spent a lot of time with people all over the place again on all of this, continuously networking and building the expert pool on all of these. And when I introduced all the privacy bills, industry lobbyists, local ones, came to my chair and basically said they were going to refuse to testify in our committee on my privacy bills.
They're bad.
And also step back one more time. Like last year's bills were technically committee bills that my chair asked Dana me to help lead. This year, he asked me to introduce them all myself and then collect co-sponsors. So all of them have a healthy sum of like co-sponsors on there from across different parties. It was, in a way, it kind of worked out because what happened was we went straight to the Senate. And we asked the Senate, basically they said, like, we won't come in front of you on the House side. We'll wait until you're done. We'll wait until the bill's in the Senate. And then we'll just pile on to the senators and get what we want. And so we went down to the Senate and literally downstairs and asked them to introduce copies of all of my stuff. And then we kind of made an agreement of which bills were going to pass by which body at which time. And so the Senate was going to run the age-appropriate design code and the comprehensive data privacy bill. And so then so they introduced it, and it was more or less helping them with testimony lists and questions to ask and arguments and rebuttals and doing all the kind of stuff I was doing for my own committee on the House side, but then also helping the Senate with all of that for comprehensive privacy and kids. The kid as it even went through the Senate, I was continuing to work with people on keeping track of the lawsuits that were happening and making adjustments so that when the House got the version, we could make sure to tie up any loose ends.
Right. Nice. Okay.
And I mean, we had amazing testimony, and largely the kids' topic is one that there's a lot of more stealth lobbying that happens behind the scenes because nobody wants to be seen as attacking a kids' protection bill.
That makes sense. Okay.
It had some of that, but generally the Senate didn't really make many changes. One of the primary changes they made was adding a small business exemption.
Okay.
But as soon as it came to our committee, the Republicans, so 7 of our 11 committee members on our House Committee, Commerce and Economic Development, are new this year. And last year, only the chair was a Republican. This year, we have 4, right, including him. So the makeup is different. And it was actually our Republicans who very vocally said that exemption needs to get removed, which was pleasantly surprising.
I wanted to say
Nice.
that's really surprising that it's actually the Republicans who do not want to do the small business exemption.
It's a fascinating dance, like the
Right.
kids versus human privacy covering everybody of every age is just like, it's fascinating. I'm still trying to navigate this because when it comes to kids, they were like, we just want to straight out ban software for kids, like social media for kids. There should be no exemptions. Everyone should be privacy protective. I mean, there are really strong data minimization standards in that bill.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with it. We dropped the impact assessments in exchange for kind of transparency expectations. I worked with like former big tech engineers to help me with the implementable, realistic pieces of the settings that could be by default and needed to be by default. So, I mean, overall, I'm
Those
a
were
fan
very
of that
good.
bill by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and we really tried to take out, address all of the First Amendment issues. So we'll see. It's really meant to be a safety bill.
Talk to me as European. What are the First Amendment issues with a kids' privacy bill?
Yeah, and actually, I was just talking to some folks from UK Ofcom yesterday about all of this bill and how it compares to the Online Safety Act in the UK, which I'm really excited to go back and look into now. But so the First Amendment concerns where that is going to differ is, for instance, on the House side, when the lobbyists came and wanted exemptions, they basically were piling on. Even though I really tried to get them to work around this to give them exemptions, they wanted to say exempt video game content and exempt cloud provider content and
No.
exempt news content and all that kind of stuff, media content.
A video game would be considered as freedom of speech?
No, so apparently what is happening is we can't regulate content because of freedom of speech. So as soon as we start saying that we're making exemptions for certain types of content, we're more or less saying that we are addressing content. So each of those was basically making it a content bill, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I tried really hard to be like, can you just give me language that doesn't call out content?
Right.
I'll give it to you. But yeah, that didn't happen.
Well, you have some really good elements of this bill that we were looking at and watching as it was going. I love the minimum duty of care, minimum standard there. I love the technology things that you put in. I love that there's not a whole lot of exemptions, frankly. I love
Right.
that you tied the age of child to as defined in COPPA as well, because, I mean, that's been one of my sore points with a lot of defining sensitive data for children. And it being defined as under 13 or a specific age, when if COPPA changes, then they're going to have to go back. But if you link it to COPPA, then if COPPA raises their age, your age automatically does. I love the controls. I mean, there's just so much about it I love. I was trying to pick out a few points that I could bring up and say. So the COPPA was one that I specifically like, but I like the one about, I'm pulling it up here. I actually had it pulled up so I could pull it up, is that children have the ability to decide what adult can see their content.
Yes. Yeah.
And messaging on there between. So it is, I'm trying to pull up what number this is. I know the numbers probably change, but the 2449D, required default privacy settings and tools. So I love that it gives the default privacy settings, but under A, it says not displaying the existence of a covered minor's account on a social media platform to any known adult user unless the covered minor has expressly and unambiguously allowed a specific known adult user to view their account and or has expressly and unambiguously chosen to make their account's existence public, not displaying social media by this to a known adult unless they expressly and unambiguously, not permitting any known adult to comment on it, not direct messaging with it, not displaying their location to other users. I'm just sitting here reading this going, dang, Monique. I mean, you really met with people to nail this. Not sending push notifications, disabling search engine indexing, everything. I was just absolutely thrilled to see this because we have not seen this level of detail anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah. And those, I mean, so I guess a few points there. One, that comes from, again, like really expanding my pool of experts that I'm talking to. And that large, the name I can go public with in general that was a huge help is the Electronic Privacy Information Center.
Oh, Epic is
so the
awesome.
Epic team was great. And so they did all of when it comes to the policy piece, they were the heavy lifting as far as things go. In those moments where, following a court case, I would see articles about any given court case going through, and I would immediately, reach out and be like, let's have a call so I can understand, does our bill need to be like adjusted on the fly, that kind of thing. So, and then obviously lots of politics with this, but, and I think another piece about all of those controls is that those wanted kind of or on something that the kids were not seeking out actively to talk to adults that they don't know was really important because all of the majority of the scariest stories that we had heard were around unknown adults showing up, like the kids showing up in search results and then somebody reaching out to them that deals drugs and sell them fentanyl or says like, I'm just a year older than you, and really they're 20 years older, and getting the kids to like go meet them on the corner, and then they get
or
raped
send them
or
nude pictures
abducted
or something like that.
or yes, exploitation, just like which is I think there's even more stuff that I want to eventually kind of work into this, but I think that this was a really solid start compared to where we were last year.
I fully agree, and if I recall the panel that I chaired last year at the Global Privacy Assembly in Jersey, this is also a lot what my panelists were actually talking about, that they would like to see from social media companies much more control, especially because they are underage, on who has access to their profile, who can even see that there is a profile and all of that. My main question is, how will this work in practice? Will Instagram and Snap suddenly then update their apps and their policies and their approaches just for Vermont to comply with your bill? And if they do that, then why not do that globally? Because it is also the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think that was the big piece of trying to work with engineers that like knew this was like making sure that the things we were asking for were actually completely doable. And so that was a big thing. And who knows? I mean, one thing that I did, it mixed, as people are reporting on this bill, some of them are catching it, some of them are not, is that there is a private right of action in it because it explicitly calls out access to being able to access the private right of action in the Consumer Protection Act.
I'm sure you were not too vocal about that before the bill was adopted.
No, not as much. I mean, they definitely knew it was there, the lobbyists and stuff, but
did the governor know?
It was something the governor did know. The governor did know because it was that. I mean, that's always a concern. But as far as like definitely Dem colleagues, but then Republican colleagues again were very much like, we have to do anything we can to protect kids. And so the conversation was very much like, I will do anything. I will support private right of action. I will like support criminality. I'll support like anything. But we're going to have to talk again when you ask me to vote on your privacy bill, on your comprehensive privacy bill. Which is fun. I was like, challenge accepted. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, one step at a time. But the social media companies now
Yeah.
have, 18 months until January 1st, 2027
Yes.
to
Yep.
comply,
Yeah.
which if they can get this done by then, that would be amazing, because then all other jurisdictions can say, hey, you've already done this for Vermont, implement it here as well, and implement it overnight.
Yeah. And then another piece of that timeline too is that we basically said that instead of age verification, there's age assurance in there, and we left it open ended. So we're saying like a company doesn't have to use age assurance. If they have another method they want to use, that's fine. But if they do choose to use it, the AG will be making rules around what is kind of counts as age assurance. And again, talking to people yesterday from the UK, it sounds like they're going to have a great report coming out about their options for the Online Safety Act, which, hopefully we'll borrow from that, but we'll see.
Well, I do love the perspective of the language that you used in here. I was looking for the specific language on the private right of action, but instead fell apart. One of the other ones that I liked, I believe, which wound up in the final law about showing or letting minors agree to categories of social media, such as cat videos. See more cat video. I just thought that was awesome. I'm like, you're writing this like you're hoping that minors can actually understand their rights.
That was a line that always got a giggle, but it was like when we were like, well, what is a better way to say this? Everybody was like, well, no, I mean, it's clear.
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
And much more legislation should be that way, that the citizen actually can understand it. Because that's, in the end, who legislation is for.
Exactly.
So, Monique, you already alluded to it, but what's happening with the generic privacy bill, the one for the adults?
So that, again, like the other ones, that came out really strong at the beginning of session, H208, and that was, again, one that, lobbyists said they would not come and testify in front of us, do it in the Senate. So that turned into S71. And the Senate, after they got done with the kids stuff, we have crossover in Vermont. So bills have to leave all of the committees of jurisdiction by a certain date in order to be able to cross over and be eligible to pass in 1 year. So the week that was happening, the senator chair basically was like, I don't think we have time to finish this. And I said, okay, strike all the language and replace it with what the industry is already okay with. And then they won't be pile on to fight you on this. And I'll help kind of like talk to everybody else as far as your colleagues go to make sure that this can just pass without fight. And so that's what happened. So it is the industry. The language is the industry bill, which is, not ideal in any means. So it got back to us, and then I worked on a strike all amendment, which I introduced to committee. The committee introduced it as a committee amendment, the final day of session. So that is out there on the record for May 30th, our House Commerce amendment for anybody who wants to read it. So it is H208 with a few adjustments.
And Pete, this is something our average listener, especially in other countries, may not understand what a strike all amendment is.
Sure.
And
I was just going to
I
ask.
have to tell y'all, sitting so close, I don't like it saying watching the sausage being made. I prefer the statement sitting too close to the ballet. You see the rips and the tears and the safety pins. But a strike all amendment, explain to them what that is, because it's a fascinating concept that most people don't understand.
Yeah, so some committees, when you make changes to a bill, they'll just take out certain words and replace it with other words. But a strike all means you take all of the language, all of the guts of a bill out, and you completely replace it with other language, which our chair tends to like to just do strike all once you have a certain percentage that is changed, so then you're not having to chase through all of the underlines and
red
strike
line,
all that.
underlines,
So you have a
and
clean text.
Yeah.
Plus, then it would also be a one vote, right? So it's all or nothing. So it can choose between all the various amendments and allow for some, which means that you might end up with a text that is contradictory.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, another thing that might be interesting, that was this was the most drama of the session as far as my bills go. Kids code and the comprehensive bill, S69 and S71, we weren't sure if any of those would move because of the lobbying pressure. And so I pulled an experiment that was I had reached out to the people who had worked on the Daniels Law in New Jersey, which gives the ability for judges to have their information, their public or private information, like the home address and their phone number and stuff, removed from data broker websites and people search websites. And advocates who I was talking to were worried that if I introduced that bill, it would fly through with no problem and that it would leave everything else in the dust. And I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. This has a private right of action. But I was like, but I want people to tell judges and cops that they can't have a private right of action. I want to see how that plays out. And I also, all of the pillars of a privacy bill are really kind of elegantly in a Daniels Law bill. So I was like, I kind of want to test the waters with all these new people where we're at a moment where we completely could be stalled on everything to see if I can blow things up a little bit. So it blew things up like an atomic bomb in a very big way. So I introduced H342. And so because I had the Delete Act and I had H342, both of which deal with brokers. When we made the deal with the senators for them to introduce my comprehensive privacy and kids, we said we would handle data broker stuff, knowing that those would be a fight. That was like a new fight.
Right.
And so we introduced H342. That very instantly, there was somebody who, I mean, we'll just say this on the record. I feel like I've said it enough. The reporters have this information, and I'm going to talk about it more. So the statewide Republican finance chair was appointed to a seat, and he had formerly worked for Intercontinental Exchange, I think ICE, that owns the New York Stock Exchange, buys companies all the time. So he had formerly worked for a data broker. And so the local lobbyists kind of like hurtled at him and made him kind of their like champion to fight for the data brokers, which was fascinating.
Did you fight for him?
Oh, yeah. No, hard. He threw down. Yeah, it was the two of us. Basically, he was running around the building telling everybody how wonderful data brokers were and how it was going to kill the economy. And then I was running around to everybody telling them, like, actually, data brokers put everybody at risk and people are dying. People are being killed, literally.
A comic strip in there somewhere, Monique. There's a comic strip somewhere, right?
No, that's good. No, believe me. People got the inside scoop on a regular basis and they're like, this is like a TV show.
Data brokers bad.
Yeah, a lot of people were tuning in. Allies in the privacy world were regularly tuning into our committee hearings on this because I was also explaining to them in real time kind of like what was happening. And they're like, this is crazy.
They want privacy lives.
It was nuts. So a few fun pieces were Sarah O's from CDIA showed up in our cafeteria and I knew Sarah. So I was like, hey, Sarah. Yeah, I was like, oh, and then the next day, so that was like a Tuesday. The next day, the CDIA, Politico had an article about CDIA establishing a PAC to fight Vermont and I think 2 other state data broker bills, which was fascinating. So, but in the midst of all this, we're also in the week of crossover. So I had convinced the committee chairs to let me try this. They were all on board, and so we had 4 days to like get this out of committee. And so for everybody to learn about data brokers, learn what the risks were, learn what we were trying to implement, and then do any edits and get it to the floor. And through 2 committees, so Judiciary and Commerce. And so in general, wild ride. But then on second reading, and I have most of the videos pertinent to these hearings and my floor reports on my website too.
Nice.
Yeah. And so on second reading, this member, he basically entrapped me in this interrogation, and out of respect, the Dems not always follow this rule, but generally people of the same party aren't supposed to interrogate each other on the floor.
Right.
Dems don't usually follow that rule in Vermont, but Republicans really hard, fast respect that rule. So my chair is a Republican. So when this guy got up to interrogate me, basically my chair couldn't help. And then the Dems weren't sure how to help. And so it was basically getting me to go along with saying things that in the end supported the idea of him submitting a strike all, so amendment. So basically saying he's going to fully replace all of our language with language that he preferred, aka industry preferred, and modeled after the Oklahoma Daniels Law, which is only judges and does a few other things. It is not what we were looking for. But the thing that they did, it actually was beneficial because it forced our committee to go. I mean, my chair is great, so he took it seriously, and we went line through line, about line by line through the entire bill again, and basically weighed what the language I had submitted, and we ended up with against potential industry favored language. And in every case, he really blew up the bill. So it was like it ended up violating, his version would have violated public record law, it would have violated tort law, it would have violated First Amendment law. So I was also sending notes to ACLU and others being like, hey, I think you might want to jump in on this because now it's like a real violation of First Amendment laws. So you should come fight our bill if you have to, but fight this amendment. So anyways, it was so much more, but it was some really dramatic fights, both in committee, on the floor, and really outside of the building, which were unexpected and really hard. I mean, I went to the building one day on a weekend and I flat out cried in the chamber by myself.
So that also needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it needed to be done. And I rallied in that day. I spent driving literally all over the state to talk to the party and talk to key people where I was illustrating, because this bill, the fight wasn't just about the policy. It was more about the politics. And it was very much also about the fact that this guy was the Republican finance chair raising money on this fight, which he bragged about to people who told me, immediately after the fights we had on it. So it became, I would say that bill highlighted money getting involved in politics in a way that, one, felt super gross, but two, was just in a lot of ways, a new factor that
a new perspective for you to look. Yeah.
Of course we say that that money is fighting privacy, but it really was.
So we're coming up to the end of the recording, but what happens next with the privacy bill? So you have your switch all amendment. I'm not using the right term, but you've got your new text. Will it make it to the finish line now?
So we are out of session for this year, but we're in a biennium in Vermont. So all of our bills that basically pick up where they left off in January. So there's so much more work to be done as far as I asked for a pause on both the Daniels Law bill and the comprehensive bill, because certain just things I was sensing in as far as lobbying pressure. So spending this summer, anybody who wants to help out there, doing statewide education, town halls, hoping to pull together a national kind of event for people to come to. And and then working on a series of op-eds that are going after some of the key arguments against privacy protection.
Yeah, feel free. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Cool.
Absolutely happy.
And Pixie.
Yeah, and Pixie. She's right there for it. She's right there. If you distract enough Republicans with an 8-week-old blue chihuahua, they won't even know what you're bringing law, right? We can do that. That's very exciting, Monique. I love to hear what you're doing. And for kicks and giggles, people, we are going to put the link to her website on our site. So if you like what Monique is doing, then feel free to reach out to her, watch what she's doing, watch these videos, donate to her campaign. This isn't a political show, but we're going to give you a link to Monique.
Absolutely. Monique, thank you so much for joining us again. And keep us posted on what's happening to the comprehensive privacy bill. We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
That was Serious Privacy.
This wraps up our podcast for this week. Please do share the episode with your friends and colleagues because we love to get more listeners. And join the conversation on LinkedIn or on Blue Sky. You'll find us under Serious Privacy on both platforms. You'll find Kay as Heart of Privacy, Ralph as IGR O'Brien, and myself as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.